The ultimatum. The stars above Earth were quiet, but a storm was brewing in the vast emptiness of space. Humanity had long dreamed of reaching beyond their home planet, to spread out into the stars. But now, a new power had risen, one that would not let them explore freely. The alien Empress, a ruthless and unyielding force, had spoken. The broadcast came through the fleet's communication network, an eerie silence hanging over it as her image appeared on every screen. Her face, cold and regal, looked down upon humanity from a throne of metal and light. Her voice was smooth but carried an unmistakable edge, like the sound of a blade being drawn. "You have been warned," she said, her tone sharp as a whip. "Your species has trespassed beyond its bounds. You dare to spread your presence through the galaxy, disrupting the order we have maintained for millennia. This ends now." The message was clear. The Empress demanded that humanity stop its expansion or face annihilation. The weight of her words struck like a hammer, but even more chilling were her final words. "Your time is up. You have one choice. Surrender, or your stars will burn." The broadcast cut off, leaving nothing but static behind. The silence that followed was heavy, like the calm before a storm. For a moment, no one spoke. On Earth, in the war rooms and command centers, the leaders of humanity stared at the screens in disbelief. This was not just a threat. It was a declaration of war. Admiral Marcus Kane, commander of the United Earth Forces, sat in the war room with his top officers. His mind raced as he processed the message. The aliens had been watching humanity's expansion for years, ever since Earth had first launched its first colony ship to a distant star system. But this was different. This was no mere skirmish. This was a direct challenge, one that humanity couldn't ignore. The alien fleet, unlike anything humanity had ever encountered, had arrived in the far reaches of the Sol system, silently surrounding their colonies. The sheer size of their ships was enough to make any human feel small and insignificant. Their technology was centuries ahead of anything Earth had developed, and their weapons, unimaginably destructive. The humans had tried to make contact peacefully. They had sent diplomats, ambassadors, and messengers. But the Empress had only one response: silence, followed by violence. Human colonies were destroyed without warning. Entire fleets vanished into the void. Admiral Kane stood before a massive screen, the map of human space laid out before him. His fingers traced the lines of the solar system, where ships had begun to move into position. But the problem was not just the alien fleet. It was what humanity had not prepared for: the alien Empress's fury. "She gave us an ultimatum," Kane muttered to his officers. "Surrender or die." His first officer, Commander Leela Green, turned to him with a look of resolve in her eyes. "We will not surrender." Kane looked around the room at the faces of his crew. They were humans, just like him, but they had seen the rise of an enemy unlike any other. The stakes had never been higher. "We don't have a choice," he said, his voice steady, but carrying the weight of responsibility. "We must fight. But first, we need to reveal our trump card." The officers looked at each other in confusion. "What are you talking about, Admiral?" asked Lieutenant Harris. 200 supercarriers, Kane replied, his gaze locking onto theirs. "They're ready." The room fell into a heavy silence. The supercarriers were a secret humanity had kept for years, designed in the event of this very kind of attack. They were the most advanced warships ever created, each one capable of taking on fleets far larger than anything the alien forces had. They were humanity's last line of defense, but even they couldn't guarantee victory. The aliens outnumbered them, and the technology they wielded was far superior. "We've spent years preparing," Kane continued, pacing the room. "But now we have to make sure the Empress knows we're not backing down." Across the galaxy, in a massive command center hidden on a dark moon, the alien Empress watched as humanity's message arrived. Her cold, calculating eyes scanned the transmission as her advisors waited for her response. "This is unexpected," she said quietly. They think they can stand against us with mere supercarriers. The room fell silent as the Empress stood. Her massive warship, the Imperious, floated just outside the moon's atmosphere, a monument to her power. But she knew this was only the beginning. Humanity's defiance had ignited something deep within her. "Send word to our fleets," she ordered. "We will show them the true meaning of fear." Her voice was calm, but it was a warning to anyone who dared to challenge her. The message was simple, yet powerful. Their planets will burn. Back on Earth, Kane stared at the map again. The alien fleet was moving into position. Time was running out. But Kane knew one thing for sure. Humanity would not surrender. The Empress had made her choice, and now the real war would begin. The broadcast from the Empress echoed in the minds of everyone who had heard it. "Your stars will burn." But Kane had one thing the Empress had underestimated: humanity's will to survive. As the final preparations were made, Admiral Kane turned to his officers and said one thing: "We fight to the end, no matter the cost." Rising tensions. The silence of space was broken only by the hum of machinery and the soft, steady rhythm of human heartbeats. Earth's military leaders were gathered in a high-tech war room aboard the flagship Valor. The alien fleet had made its intentions clear. Humanity would be wiped out if it did not surrender. And now, humanity was preparing for war. Admiral Marcus Kane stood before a holographic map that displayed the entire galaxy. It was a map of doom, one that showed the locations of alien fleets rapidly moving toward the human colonies. His fingers hovered over the symbols representing those fleets, knowing what would happen if they reached their destinations. The alien fleet, led by the fearsome alien Empress, was not to be underestimated. Their ships were massive, technologically superior, and capable of decimating entire planets with a single strike. But humanity had something the aliens could not predict: the will to fight. "We've been preparing for this moment for years," Kane said, his voice steady but filled with the weight of the moment. "And now it's time to show them we won't bow down." His first officer, Commander Leela Green, stepped forward. "Admiral, we've gathered intelligence on their fleet, but there's a problem. We don't know the full extent of their capabilities. They've been hiding their true strength. They could have more ships waiting in the shadows." Kane nodded, his expression grim. "I know. We'll have to take the fight to them, as quickly as possible. But first, we need to make sure that our 200 supercarriers are ready. We've spent years building them for this very moment. They are our only chance." The supercarriers had been humanity's most closely guarded secret, their construction hidden from even most of the fleet's commanders. These ships were massive, nearly indestructible, and equipped with the most advanced weapons and defensive systems humanity had ever created. Each ship was a fortress in space, designed to take on the most formidable enemies. The fleet had been spread out across Earth's orbit, hidden away in remote shipyards and military bases. Now, those ships would have to unite for the first time, each one prepared for the battle that was about to unfold. "Get the word out to the fleet," Kane ordered. "We need to assemble immediately." In the vast reaches of space, the alien Empress paced before a holographic display of the human solar system. Her black eyes narrowed as she watched the ships of humanity slowly moving into position. She had underestimated them once, but she would not make that mistake again. "They are preparing to fight," she murmured to herself, "but it will be in vain." The Empress had never known fear. She had conquered countless civilizations, shattered their hopes and dreams, and turned their worlds to dust. She had ruled for centuries, and nothing could stand against her and her empire. But something about humanity had started to intrigue her. They were small, fragile, and unremarkable in the grand scale of the universe. Yet, they had the audacity to resist. The Empress looked to her advisor, a cold and calculating figure who had stood by her side through every battle. "Prepare the fleet. Send word to our commanders. We will show them the power of the Empire." Back on Earth, the atmosphere was tense. Humanity's 200 supercarriers were beginning to leave their hidden stations, gliding into position near the fleet's command center. They were ready, But there was one problem. They had no idea what awaited them. The alien forces were vast, their numbers far greater than humanity's. The size and scale of the enemy ships were enough to make any human warrior question their odds. But it was not just the size of the alien fleet that was worrying. It was the unknown. What advanced weapons did the Empress's ships carry? What tactics would they use to crush humanity? Admiral Kane knew that there was no turning back. If humanity was going to survive, they had to face the enemy head-on. But even with the 200 supercarriers at his disposal, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into the jaws of a beast. "We need to know what we're up against," Kane said, his voice filled with urgency. "Send a reconnaissance team to gather intelligence. I want to know everything we can about the alien fleet. We can't afford any surprises." Commander Green nodded. "Understood, sir. I'll dispatch a ship immediately." As the reconnaissance team prepared for their mission, the atmosphere aboard the Valor was tense. Every officer, every crew member knew that the stakes had never been higher. One wrong move, one mistake, could mean the end of humanity's future. And with every passing minute, the enemy drew closer. Back in the heart of the alien fleet, the Empress prepared for the coming war. She stood before a massive hologram of the human solar system, her thoughts cold and calculating. She knew what was coming, and she was not afraid. She would break humanity as she had broken so many others before them. "They think they can stand against me," the Empress said with a sinister smile. "Let them try. I will burn their cities. I will scatter their people to the winds. This is their final mistake." The first clash. The silence of space was shattered by the roar of engines as the massive fleet of humanity's 200 supercarriers advanced toward the alien forces. The ships moved in tight formation, each one a towering testament to human ingenuity and determination. They were the ultimate weapon, the final defense against an alien empire bent on erasing humanity from the stars. And now, for the first time, they would face the enemy. Admiral Marcus Kane stood at the helm of the Valor, his eyes fixed on the view of the alien fleet approaching from the distance. The black void of space stretched out in every direction, but the dark silhouettes of the alien warships filled the horizon like a gathering storm. There were hundreds of them, massive, imposing, and covered in weapons that could tear apart anything in their path. Yet Kane felt no fear. He had spent years preparing for this moment. His crew, his fleet, they were ready. "All ships, maintain formation," Kane ordered. "We hold the line here. This is where we make our stand. No one retreats. No one backs down." His voice crackled over the comms to the rest of the fleet. Across the 200 supercarriers, crews worked tirelessly to prepare their ships for the battle ahead. Shields were raised, weapons systems activated, and engines roared as the fleet slowly advanced, ready to engage the enemy. The alien fleet, led by the infamous alien Empress, had been moving toward humanity's position at breakneck speed. They had been waiting for this moment, prepared for the destruction they would bring. But the presence of the human fleet, so organized, so vast, had caught the Empress by surprise. She had expected resistance, but she had not expected this. The Empress paced aboard her flagship, the Imperious, her cold gaze fixed on the human fleet through the holographic display in front of her. She had never feared anything in her life, but now, for the first time, she felt a tremor of doubt. Humanity had defied her in a way no other species had dared to. The arrogance of their leaders, the confidence in their weapons, it was infuriating. "Prepare for engagement," the Empress ordered, her voice like ice. "The time for talk is over. Show them the might of the Empire. Let them witness their doom." Back in the human fleet, Admiral Kane was standing in front of the comms panel, his hands gripping the edges of the console. His pulse was steady, but inside he was running through every possible scenario in his mind. The stakes had never been higher. The entire survival of the human race was about to be decided in the vast expanse of space. "Commander Green, status report," Kane barked. Commander Leela Green, the Valor's first officer, quickly tapped into the ship's systems. "We've got multiple alien ships coming into range. They're preparing to fire. Their weapons are charged and ready." "Shields up," Kane ordered. "Return fire at will. No one holds back." The human fleet unleashed their weapons, a barrage of missiles and energy blasts streaking toward the incoming alien forces. The alien ships responded immediately, their advanced weapons lighting up the dark expanse as they retaliated with overwhelming force. The battle began in a violent explosion of light and sound. The human supercarriers fired massive railguns, sending projectiles tearing through the void toward the alien ships. In return, the alien fleet launched waves of deadly plasma blasts and energy beams, lighting up the darkness as they ripped into the human fleet's shields. "Direct hit on the Thunderstrike," a voice called out from the bridge of one of the supercarriers. "Shields holding, but we've lost secondary power systems." Kane's eyes narrowed. The first wave of attacks had landed, and it was clear that this battle would not be easy. But he had known that. What mattered now was how humanity responded. There was no turning back. The alien ships were formidable, but humanity's supercarriers were not easily destroyed. Each ship was a fortress in space, designed to withstand the worst that the galaxy could throw at it. But the aliens were relentless. The Valor shook as enemy fire slammed into its shields, causing the lights to flicker for a moment. "Damage report," Kane demanded, his voice sharp. "Minor damage to port side. Shields holding steady," Green reported. "We've got enemy ships coming in fast, Admiral." Kane clenched his fists. "Engage evasive maneuvers. Keep them guessing. We're not letting them get close enough to board us." The Valor surged forward, its engines firing with full power as it cut through space. The alien ships followed, staying close behind, but humanity's tactics were working. The supercarriers, using advanced AI, coordinated their movements, launching coordinated strikes and evading enemy blasts with precision. The Empress watched the battle unfold from the comfort of her flagship. Her face remained stoic, but the flicker of frustration was visible in her eyes. Humanity's tactics were proving to be far more effective than she had anticipated. They were unpredictable, fluid, and deadly. But that wouldn't stop her. She had more than enough firepower to crush their resistance. "Send in the dreadnoughts," the Empress commanded. "If they want to fight, we'll give them a fight they'll never forget." At her command, several enormous dreadnoughts, behemoth warships twice the size of anything humanity had ever seen, entered the battlefield. They were equipped with planet-destroying weapons, capable of erasing entire fleets in a single shot. The sky above the battlefield began to darken as these massive ships deployed, their weapons coming online. "All ships, hold your ground," Kane commanded, his voice steady as the new wave of enemy ships entered the fray. "Focus fire on the dreadnoughts. We can't let them get close." The battle intensified. Humanity's supercarriers were holding their ground, but the Empress's dreadnoughts were pushing forward with terrifying speed. The humans launched everything they had: missiles, energy beams, and railgun fire at the dreadnoughts, hoping to pierce their shields. The massive ships retaliated with energy blasts that cracked the very fabric of space. "We're losing ships," a voice cried from the comms. Kane's jaw tightened. "We don't retreat," he said, his voice cold with determination. "We fight." The tide turns. The battle raged on, filling the expanse of space with an orchestra of explosions and the fiery trail of energy blasts. Humanity's fleet was doing its best to hold its ground, but the alien dreadnoughts were overwhelming. Each one of these massive ships had the firepower to wipe out entire battalions with a single shot, and now they were pressing forward, their shields practically invulnerable to the human supercarriers' weapons. Admiral Marcus Kane gritted his teeth as another volley of alien plasma fire slammed into the Valor. The ship shook violently, sending crew members stumbling. The shields flickered, then flared back to life, holding for the moment, but for how long? "Admiral, the Thunderstrike has lost all communication. Commander Leela Green reported urgently. It's gone dark. No response from the crew. Kane's eyes narrowed, his jaw tightening in frustration. The Thunderstrike had been one of their strongest chips, and now it was lost. One of the dreadnoughts had made its mark. This was not just a battle, it was a massacre. We can't let them pick us off one by one, Kane muttered. He turned to the tactical officer. What's the status of our special weapons? Can we use them? The officer hesitated for a moment, his face pale. Admiral, the weapons are ready, but they're a one-time shot. If we use them, we'll have nothing left to counter their final push. Kane weighed the options. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and every second mattered. We're going to need that firepower. Prep the main cannon, and tell the fleet to focus fire on the dreadnought at 12 o'clock. We need to break their formation. On the alien side, the alien Empress watched as her fleet began to encircle the human forces, cutting off all escape routes. She had underestimated humanity's resolve, but now she could see the remnants of their resistance. They fought with a tenacity she hadn't expected, but it wouldn't be enough. She stared at the holographic map of the battlefield, her expression cold and calculating. Her fleet's massive firepower was overwhelming the humans, but they were still putting up a fight. The dreadnoughts were closing in, and victory was almost in her grasp. However, she was no fool. She knew that humanity would have something hidden, something desperate. Alert all fleets to remain vigilant, the Empress ordered. We do not underestimate them again. Her voice was calm, but the slightest hint of unease lingered in the air. The Imperious, her flagship, hovered at the center of the battlefield, waiting for the inevitable final push that would break humanity's resistance. The dreadnoughts were moving in, and the enemy ships were retreating further toward Earth, where the final battle would be fought. Back on the Valor, the tension was unbearable. The massive alien ships were nearly upon them. The Valor shuddered again as another alien energy blast tore through its shields. Sparks flew from several consoles, and alarms blared across the bridge. Commander Green's face was tense, her knuckles white, as she gripped the command chair. We're losing power to the engines, Admiral, she reported urgently. If we don't do something fast, we'll be sitting ducks. Kane's mind raced. He knew the situation was becoming desperate. The remaining supercarriers were already on the verge of collapse, their shields weakening under the alien onslaught. But there was one last weapon humanity could use, if they could just get in range. Prepare the main cannon, Kane barked, his voice filled with unrelenting determination. We're going to hit them with everything we have. Admiral, the Titanus is gone, Lieutenant Harris called out. We've lost the flagship of the 2nd Division. Kane felt a pang of loss. Each ship destroyed was another reminder that the odds were against them. Yet he had no time to mourn. He had a plan, and it was their only hope. Hold tight, everyone, Kane said. We make our stand now. The Valor suddenly surged forward, breaking out of the formation. Kane had a plan, one that was risky, dangerous, and would likely cost them the ship. But it was their best chance. The other supercarriers followed, all closing in on the largest dreadnought, the one leading the alien charge. It was the biggest threat, the one that could wipe out humanity's remaining fleet with a single strike. Fire the main cannon, Kane shouted. The Valor unleashed its final weapon, a massive concentrated blast of energy, directly targeting the heart of the dreadnought. The energy beam struck the alien ship with such force that the resulting explosion tore through space like a star-going supernova. The dreadnought's shields buckled, and then, with a shuddering explosion, the ship was obliterated. For a moment, it seemed as though time itself had frozen. The massive alien ship disintegrated in an instant, its debris scattering across the vast emptiness of space. But the victory was short-lived. The Empress saw the destruction of her dreadnought, and though her face remained impassive, fury simmered beneath her cold exterior. How dare they? How could they destroy one of her finest ships? Send in the reinforcements, the Empress ordered, her voice icy. "It's time to end this charade." A massive new fleet, larger and more powerful than anything humanity had encountered, appeared from behind the nearest moon. These ships were different, sleek, deadly, and capable of deploying entire legions of alien soldiers. They would be the final blow to humanity's defense. Back on the Valor, the crew watched the debris of the alien dreadnought float away. The adrenaline from the victory still coursed through their veins. But the cheers quickly died as the new alien reinforcements appeared on the radar. "Admiral," Commander Green said, her voice tight with fear, "we've just received reports. A fleet of reinforcements has emerged from hiding. Their numbers, we can't count them all. We're surrounded." Kane's heart sank as he gazed at the radar screen. It was a nightmare come to life. Hundreds, maybe thousands of alien warships descending on Earth. "We fight on," Kane said, determination hardening his voice. "Humanity does not surrender. Not now. Not ever." The last stand. The human fleet had been pushed to the edge. After the destruction of the dreadnought, there had been a brief moment of victory, but that fleeting sense of hope was swiftly crushed. Alien reinforcements emerged from the shadow of a nearby moon, a vast armada far larger than anything humanity had ever faced. The odds were no longer just against them. They were insurmountable. Admiral Marcus Kane stood at the helm of the Valor, staring at the holographic display in front of him. The enemy fleet stretched across the screen, an unrelenting wall of alien ships that blocked any hope of escape. The ships were sleek, alien, and bristling with weapons that could obliterate humanity's remaining fleet in an instant. "We've got no room to maneuver, Admiral," Commander Leela Green said, her voice tense. "They've surrounded us on all sides. Our shields are weakening, and our weapons are running low on power. We can't keep up this fight much longer." Kane's gaze was fixed on the approaching alien ships. The Valor had taken heavy damage. Her hull was scared, her weapons barely functional, and the crew was exhausted. But in his heart, Kane knew that there was no turning back. If they were going to go down, they would go down fighting. "Prepare the last of the special weapons," Kane ordered. "We're not running from this. We stand our ground. Tell every ship in the fleet to engage the enemy. Full assault." Green's eyes widened with concern. "Admiral, that's suicide. We're already down to less than a quarter of our firepower. If we fire the last of the special weapons, we'll have no defense left. The fleet won't survive it." "I'm aware," Kane replied grimly. "But this is our final chance. We have to give them everything we've got. This is humanity's last stand. We fight until we have no more fight left." In the heart of the alien fleet, the Empress watched as her reinforcements closed in on the human fleet. Her cold eyes gleamed with triumph, knowing that humanity's defiance was about to be crushed. The humans had put up an admirable fight, but now it was time to end it all. "They are desperate," the Empress said, her voice barely a whisper. "They will throw everything they have at us, but it will not be enough. We will extinguish their light once and for all." She watched as the human ships began to fire their final weapons, a last-ditch effort to break through the overwhelming alien force. The energy blasts were powerful, but they were no match for the alien shields. The explosions had little effect, only serving to further enrage the Empress. "Order the fleet to advance," she commanded, her voice cutting through the tense air. "It ends here. We take Earth, and we end their existence." Back on the Valor, Kane stood in silence as the final shots were fired. The last of their energy weapons had missed their targets, fading into the emptiness of space with no effect. The alien ships continued their advance, and humanity's fleet was all but destroyed. Yet, Kane refused to give up. "Give me a status report," Kane demanded, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. The tactical officer turned to face him, eyes wide with panic. "Admiral, we've lost almost all of our ships. The Titanus, the Zephyr, the Bastion. They're all gone. The Valor is the last remaining supercarrier." Kane's expression remained stoic, but inside, his heart ached for the brave souls who had given their lives. For a moment, he thought about Earth, about the home they were fighting to protect. The memories of peaceful days, of humanity's achievements, flashed before his eyes. "We're not done yet," Kane said, his voice unwavering. "We're going to make them regret underestimating us." He turned to Commander Green. "Prepare the final protocol. If we're going down, we'll take as many of them with us as we can." Green's eyes filled with horror. "Admiral, you can't be serious. That's a one-way mission. We'll destroy ourselves, along with them. No one will survive." Kane met her gaze, his expression hardening. "If there's a chance we can take them down, no matter how small, we'll do it. Humanity will be remembered. Our story won't end in the dark. Not like this." Green nodded, though her face was etched with sadness. She had known Kane long enough to understand the fire that burned within him. She had fought beside him, blood beside him. And now, she would follow him into whatever was left of this fight. The final plan was set into motion. The Valor, the last of humanity's supercarriers, activated its self-destruct mechanism, powered by the final reserves of its energy core. It was a last, desperate gamble. As the alien fleet closed in for the kill, the Valor surged forward, its engines roaring one final time. "Activate the self-destruct in 5, 4. Kane's voice was calm, almost serene as he issued the order. 3, 2. But just as the countdown reached 1, something unexpected happened. The unexpected ally. The explosion that had rocked the battlefield was unlike anything the Empress had ever seen. It wasn't the blast from the Valor's self-destruct sequence, nor was it from any of the supercarriers that humanity had been desperately clinging to. The alien fleet, which had been moving forward with confidence, now found itself caught in an unexpected onslaught. Alien ships scattered as a massive wave of energy surged through their ranks, tearing apart the center of the formation. The Empress froze. Her cold, calculating demeanor faltered for a split second as she stared at the holographic map of the battlefield, watching the damage ripple through her fleet. "Report," she snapped. A trembling officer spoke from the bridge of the Imperius. "Your Excellency, we've detected a new fleet, hidden behind the asteroid belt. They appear to be human, larger than any we've encountered, and their firepower, it's unlike anything we've ever seen." The Empress's fury reached its peak. Humanity had not only resisted, they had been hiding a fleet of their own, ready to strike at the most crucial moment. Her mind raced. This wasn't a mere surprise. This was a game-changer. A counterattack of this scale had the power to completely alter the course of the battle. Meanwhile, aboard the Valor, Admiral Kane stood frozen as the shockwave from the mysterious fleet's attack vibrated through his ship. The bridge crew was speechless for a moment, trying to understand what had just happened. Had the Valor's final self-destruct protocol gone off? Had they failed? Then, Commander Green's voice cut through the confusion, sharp and excited. "Admiral, it's not us. It's another human fleet. They're here." Kane's heart skipped a beat. He had thought they were alone. The Valor was the last supercarrier left, the last hope of humanity. Yet somehow, another fleet had managed to stay hidden. Their energy signatures were unlike anything humanity had ever deployed. The ships were massive, but their design was sleek, almost alien in appearance, and their weaponry far exceeded what humanity had ever dreamed of. "They've come," Kane whispered, disbelief filling his voice. "They've come to finish what we started." The tactical officer looked up, wide-eyed. "They're firing. Full assault. They're overwhelming the aliens." The massive human fleet fired with devastating force. The barrage of weaponry, missiles, plasma cannons, and railgun shots shattered the alien fleet's defenses. The previously impenetrable alien shields were no match for the new fleet's advanced weaponry. Within moments, alien ships began to crumble, their energy shields flickering and collapsing under the sustained fire. Admiral Kane took a breath, his fingers gripping the command chair tightly. "All ships, form up with the reinforcements. It's time to finish this." The Empress's face twisted in anger as the sudden counterattack turned the tide of battle. She had believed victory was within her grasp, but now she was losing control. The new human fleet was relentless, cutting through her ships with precision and power. "Send in the assault forces," she ordered, her voice trembling with fury. "We'll crush them beneath our feet. There is no escape for them now." But it wasn't just the reinforcements that were changing the course of the battle. The unexpected fleet wasn't alone. As the alien fleet began to retreat, another surprise followed. From the shadows of the asteroid belt, a group of stealth ships, smaller, agile, and completely undetected until this moment, emerged. They were human ships, but they were far more advanced, their designs sleek and nimble. These ships began to pick off alien vessels one by one, engaging in guerrilla-style tactics that made the aliens' massive fleets vulnerable. Kane could hardly believe his eyes as he watched the tactical display on the bridge. The sudden influx of human forces had not only given them a fighting chance, but turned the battle into a full-scale offensive. On the ground below, Earth's defense forces had watched helplessly as the alien fleet closed in. But now, with the reinforcements making their move, there was hope. The global communications network hummed with messages of support, bringing together every soldier, pilot, and engineer on Earth. Humanity wasn't just fighting in space. They were preparing for the final ground assault, should the war spill over to their home planet. Commander Green turned to Kane, her face lighting up with realization. "Admiral, we're not just fighting for our survival anymore. We're fighting for Earth. This is our moment." Kane nodded, feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders. But now, with this new fleet and the ground forces mobilizing, they were no longer alone in this fight. Humanity had fought with everything they had, and now they were witnessing the power of unity. Meanwhile, on the Empress's flagship, the Imperius, the battle was starting to go terribly wrong. The previously overwhelming alien forces were now faltering. Every time the Empress attempted to direct a counterattack, more of her fleet was shattered by the human reinforcements. The alien Empress was used to power. She was used to invincibility. But now she was starting to feel the sting of doubt. The Empress clenched her fists. "Activate the final protocol," she said, her voice strained. "Prepare to unleash the Requiem Star. We end this now." The Requiem Star was the ultimate weapon, a massive planet-destroying energy cannon that had been the key to the alien empire's dominance. With it, she would erase humanity from the stars. The Empress was convinced of it. Her fleet may have been faltering, but with the Requiem Star, nothing could stand in her way. But as the Empress's forces began their final preparations to activate the Requiem Star, the unexpected human fleet wasn't done yet. As the aliens started to concentrate their firepower for one final push, a mysterious ship, a sleek, futuristic vessel that had never been seen before, appeared in the heart of the battlefield. The ship fired a shot that was unlike anything the aliens had ever encountered, a pulse of pure energy, so intense that it disintegrated any alien ship it touched. The Requiem Star was knocked off course as its systems were overwhelmed by the unexpected force. The entire alien fleet began to stumble, its well-planned counterattack now in chaos. The final gambit. The battlefield had shifted. The once dominant alien fleet was now floundering, disoriented by the unexpected arrival of the mysterious human ships. The Requiem Star, the Empress's ultimate weapon, had been knocked off course. The aliens were scrambling, their coordination faltering, and their morale plummeting. Humanity, despite being on the brink of annihilation, had turned the tables, at least for now. Admiral Marcus Kane's eyes were locked onto the tactical display. The map of the battlefield showed a stark contrast to just hours ago. The once overwhelming alien presence was now scattered, with large swaths of their fleet decimated by the coordinated assault from humanity's reinforcements. Ships that had once seemed invincible were now floating wrecks in the vast expanse of space. Kane's heart raced as the new fleet advanced, taking down alien warships one after another. The mysterious ship that had fired the shot disabling the Requiem star was leading the charge, its firepower unmatched, cutting through alien defenses like a hot knife through butter. Humanity had found their strength, their unexpected ally, but the question remained, who were they? "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission," Commander Green said, breaking the silence. "It's coming from the ship that fired the disabling shot." Kane nodded, urging her to put it on screen. The bridge was silent, every eye focused on the holographic display as the feed flickered to life. The image on the screen was not what anyone expected. The ship was unlike anything humanity had ever built, sleek, with an angular design and an energy signature that was distinctly human, yet far more advanced than anything in their known arsenal. But it was the figure who appeared in the transmission that took everyone by surprise. A man, dressed in a military uniform of a design that hadn't been seen since the early days of space exploration. His face was weathered, his eyes sharp with the weight of many battles, but there was something about him, something almost timeless. "I am General Elias Draven." The figure spoke, his voice calm yet filled with authority. "And we are humanity's last hope." The crew exchanged confused glances. Who was this man? How had he and his fleet remained hidden for so long? And how had they gained the firepower to match the might of the alien invaders? The transmission continued. "We've been watching you," Draven continued, his voice steady. "We knew the aliens were coming, and we've been preparing for this day for years. Our fleet has been stationed at the edge of known space, waiting for the moment when humanity's future would hang in the balance. That moment is now." Kane was stunned. He had assumed humanity had exhausted all resources, that their final stand was truly a final one. Yet here was this fleet, with technology far beyond what they had imagined. The new ships, the advanced weapons, the mysterious general, everything was a surprise. "You've done well to survive this long," Draven continued, his tone a mixture of praise and resolve. "But it's not over yet. The Empress still holds the Requiem star, and she will not go down easily. We must finish what we started." Kane stepped forward, his voice firm. "How can we trust you? Where have you been all this time?" Draven's eyes met Kane's, and for a brief moment, the tension in the room was palpable. Then Draven spoke, his voice low but filled with a grim certainty. "We were never gone. We were just waiting for the right moment to strike." On the alien side, the Empress had seen the new human fleet, and her rage was like nothing she had ever known. She had underestimated them, underestimated humanity's ability to adapt, to fight back. But now, with her Requiem star disabled and her fleet in chaos, the Empress found herself at a crossroads. Her fingers drummed on the console in front of her. She had to regain control, and quickly. There was no more room for mistakes. If humanity's mysterious new ally kept pushing, there would be no way for her to maintain dominance. "Prepare the final assault," she ordered. "We will destroy them all. Activate the Requiem star once more. I will not be bested by this last-ditch effort from a few hidden ships." The alien fleet began to regroup, moving toward their final offensive. The Empress was not finished yet, and she would ensure humanity's extinction, even if it meant sacrificing everything. Back aboard the Valor, Admiral Kane looked at the map of the battlefield once more. He could see the aliens regaining their composure. The fight was far from over. With General Draven's fleet now a crucial part of humanity's forces, the balance had shifted, but it was still precarious. "General Draven," Kane spoke over the comm. "How do we end this? How do we destroy the Requiem star before it finishes us off?" Draven's voice came through clearly. "We've located the Requiem star. We're sending a strike team to disable it. But it won't be easy. You'll need to hold the line while we make our move. This is the final battle." Kane's heart pounded in his chest. There was no turning back now. The battle had reached its peak, and only one side could emerge victorious. As the alien fleet began its final assault, humanity's forces, old and new, rallied together. The reinforcements had brought fresh hope, but the final confrontation was fast approaching. Kane could see the alien flagship, the Empress, rising into position, ready to launch its devastating attack. Kane glanced at his crew, then at the holographic display of the Valor's position. There was no room for error. If they failed now, it would be the end. All ships, prepare for the final assault. Kane commanded, his voice ringing out with conviction. We fight for humanity's survival. We fight for Earth.